Welcome to the latest edition of DiBella's Digest. The main man himself, Lou DiBella, how's your week been?
Stable. I've hit like I'm okay right now. I'm at least heading in the right direction. I'm heading in the right direction.
Things kind of eased at all over there. I know some of our kind of lockdown restrictions in the UK have eased over the last week. What's the situation over there?
No, I think it's similar. You could definitely see it's taking a turn toward trying to open up, but I think we're a long ways away from crowds and things like that. But you know what the funny part is, Danny? We're doing this on Friday instead of Wednesday today, which is good because that's the only thing that's really changed. I mean, I think we're heading in the right direction, but it's going to be a slow and it's going to be a process. And we've talked about it almost every time we've spoken so far. I don't think anything's changed. I think Aram's trying to Top Rank Boxing trying to get back in June. I hope they can, but they have a lot of logistics that are not worked out yet with Nevada, and I know they're going to go in Nevada. So, maybe if it's not the beginning of June, maybe it's the end of June. But it'd be nice, they're starting moving toward that point, and I think you'll see, depending on how that goes and how the numbers go, you'll see more people, potentially more television media platforms coming back with live sports. I mean, there's still, I'm seeing stuff with Premier League coming back potentially, and I'm seeing stuff abroad with football. But time will tell. Most people here are still in a little bit of a waiting mode.
Apparently, there's going to be some shows in Mexico in June carried by ESPN, Xantha Promotions, putting on a few shows as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think we always conjectured that things would start to open up. We don't have a governing body. We don't have one person running our business. So boxing's going to come back when people are ready to come back. And to some extent, there are going to be protocols that are going to be mandated, and there are going to be protocols that other people are going to want to take that may be beyond what's mandated. And time will tell.
And so,
all you can hope is that people will use reason. And I do think people are trying to do that. So that's really all you could hope for.
Somewhat surprisingly for the year 2020, the boxer most often being discussed at the moment seems to be Mike Tyson, which is a little strange and maybe indicative of the situation we're all in where we need a story. What do you make of these rumours about him coming back in some form or another?
Some form or another is the operative term. I mean, he owns a huge weed company. He owns the weed resort. I smoke weed. Mike smokes multiples exponentially of what I do. I mean, he's not coming back to have a serious boxing career. I mean, if he's coming back for exhibitions or he's going to come back for charity, if coming back may just mean he's back in the gym. I mean, I don't know, man. It depends on what people are really looking for a program. Mike also has a brand. And looking sensational at 55 years old and on a heavy bag or hitting mitts, that's still impressive and that's still good for business. That's good for the brand. I don't know what Mike's thinking, but I'm not taking it seriously as boxing. Mike's a huge superstar. He's a celebrity. If he wants to hit the bag, that's fine. If he wants to do an exhibition that's a state okays under certain guidelines, if he wants to raise money for a charity, I think he'll have opportunities dependent on what he's hoping for. I don't think he's thinking about Tyson Fury or Deontay Wilder or any of this stuff. Mike knows that he was on the tail end of his career. When he retired, he wasn't beating the best in the game. You don't get better when years pass by. Mike's not nuts. Mike knows what he's doing. I'm not worried about Mike Tyson, nor am I taking this seriously as a boxing comeback. Mike's smarter than many of us, and Mike has people around him that care about him. So I'm not worried about Mike Tyson.
I saw a story earlier. Dana White quoted as saying he really doesn't want Mike to come back, and if it comes too close, he's going to offer him some sort of role so that he doesn't have to.
Who said that?
Dana White.
I mean, I don't think Mike's. I just don't think Mike's really. I don't think it's a real comeback. Maybe Dana knows something more than I know, but there's like if he wants to do an exhibition with guys like Tyson are back in the gym, Evander, they're back in the gym. If they want to do a few rounds and get back in and do an exhibition, they could do it in a private gym. They don't need our permission. They're men. They have, if they want to do that, they could do that. They want to do that, and they could raise $50 million for a cause or a charity or help change the world. God bless them, man. I've learned, I'm not jumping out to criticize necessarily anything. I mean, if someone told me that Mike Tyson signed a new promotional agreement with whoever and was coming back to regain the heavyweight championship of the world, I would say, go fuck off. Come on, stop. But there's a lot of other things he could do if he wants to get, if he wants to fulfill some kind of boxing Jones. There are a lot of other things that he could do that might be perfectly okay.
It's another example, though, of Dana White being quoted talking about boxing, and he seems to have been kind of threatening to get involved.
He's entitled to talk about boxing. He's entitled to talk about boxing, and I'm entitled to talk about UFC or MMA. I mean, we're entitled to say we want. I don't agree with this guy on a lot of stuff, but I don't dislike the guy. I disagree with him on a lot of stuff, but I think he respects me. I respect him. We can talk. I don't go out there to hate on what he does. I mean, look. Right now, I don't think. Let's face the reality. I don't think there's black and white, right and wrong. You want to be careful right now. You want to protect people. Fuck, I'm going to be 60 shortly, okay? So, I mean, my mother is 86 years old. I have my siblings, are cancer survivors, among them. So, I want to protect people. I want us to be safe about how we return to operating, but I want to get back and I want to start again. I think everyone does. You just want to do it with a sense of responsibility.
He's been talking.
So Dana, I wasn't going to jump on Dana for making the decision he made and bringing UFC back. I mean, he had a lot of people urging him on. There's a great demand, and I don't think there's any clear cut right and wrong now, but I think they're sitting back a little bit and being as responsible as we can. Sounds like it makes sense to me.
He's been kind of talking about moving across into boxing in some way, shape, or
form. Let me tell you, he has enough issues. He needs to keep his franchise on top in UFC. He needs, they're coming at it. They're going through tough time. I mean, everybody, Endeavor is sits there and they have their own issues. And I mean, Dana's not worrying about getting into or taking over a new business now. By the way, he spent a couple of years taking a good look at boxing. It'd be a lot of work to roll up boxing right now and create something sensible of it. And, right now, maybe a lot of people don't have that time or inclination at this present moment, so I don't fault him for looking at boxing and not rushing into it, and he can talk about what he wants. He's entitled to his opinion. He's got his own point of view and he's a smart man.
Whole kind of Mike Tyson story recently also seems to have reignited the perpetual debate about the best heavyweights of all time. And as someone who's been in boxing for as long as you have and has worked with a number of the top heavyweights, it'd be great to get your take on, I don't know, a top 3 or a top 5, something like that.
Well, I mean, you have to go back, and part of it is just an understanding of history and looking at fight tapes. Because you do have to go back and think about the comparable athletes at the time, what the heavyweight champion meant at the time, how great that heavyweight champion was to that point in history. So, I mean, look, I agree with Lennox Lewis, who said the greatest of all time is Muhammad Ali, and that's in and outside of the ring, and he was my hero. But I mean, as a fighter, Muhammad Ali was a completely transcendent talent. As a heavyweight, he floated like a butterfly and stung like a bee. He looked like Baryshnikov in the ring. He could move. He could flow. He had everything. He had rhythm in the ring. He was the greatest. And then it becomes a debate. I would put Joe Louis probably number 2 on my list. There's I would probably put Joe Frazier not far behind. I don't know about in the top 5. I haven't given it enough thought. But I mean, a top echelon, I could give you I think Frazier to be in the top echelon. I think probably Larry Holmes and Lennox Lewis are in the top echelon, and and they're all, there could be debate. I think Mike Tyson's in the top 10, but I wouldn't necessarily put him in the top 5. Evander Holyfield certainly belongs in that discussion. Marciano was undefeated. I mean, he was small and he wasn't as athletic as some of the others, but I mean, he accomplished something no one else has. He certainly is in the top 10. So I don't know. I'd have to think about I'd have to give it more thought. But my number 1 and 2, I think, would be Muhammad Ali and I would put. And honestly, I probably would rate of the modern heavyweights, the heavyweights of the last 20 years and 25 years. I probably would rate Lennox number 1 among the heavyweights since that period. Look, I'm biased. I was involved in his career as the television network from the beginning, and I have a great deal of affection for Lennox as a person. I like him. I like his family, but I think, and he's conducted himself like a champion forever. But I mean, Lennox was a great fighter, man. Lennox was top 5. Frazier top 5. Number 1 Ali, number 2 Joe Louis, and I mean, I'm sure I'm missing it. You could debate about so many others.
What about someone, just throwing it out there, someone like Wladimir Klitschko, who was very dominant for a long time, but wasn't the most exciting champion and came unstuck against Fury, obviously, at the end of his reign?
I think he's a top 10, top 12 all-time heavyweight. But I'm not even sure he was the best Klitschko. I mean, I loved him. But, like, Vitali was a great fighter. I mean, I'm not sure. I think Wladimir might have been more athletic in a little bit, but Vitali hit harder, was bigger, stronger, maybe more durable, maybe a better ticker in terms of stamina. I mean, I'm not sure that Wladimir was the dominant Klitschko. Look, he's an all-time great fighter, certainly in the top dozen. Put it this way, if you were looking at the top, what is it now, top 12 or top 15 that could fight for a world title? If you're looking in the top 12 of all time or top 15 of all time, certainly both Klitschko brothers are on that top 15 of all time. Maybe you start debating about the top 12, but they're certainly up there. They're certainly in that top all-time great heavyweight.
Just before we let you go, what's your message?
So is George Foreman. So is Evander Holyfield. You can argue for Riddick Bowe, just on size and generation of heavyweight. I
always think it's very hard to rate Foreman in those sort of lists because he had 2 careers. And how do you kind of mold those 2 together and decide where he fits?
He was a better fighter as an old man, but if he understood the game and he understood dealing with people, look, George was a better fighter. He was a better complete package as older George Foreman. But if you would have put that stuff into younger George Foreman, he would have been number 1 of all time. Yeah, you have to look at someone's whole career. He had an amazing career. You look at George's whole career, he had a great career.
So just before we let you go, what's your message for boxing fans who, like everyone, are still impatient, waiting for the sport to return? Springs of hope now?
Yeah, I think so. But I always thought that we'd see light at the end of the tunnel this summer. It's certainly not helping that it's getting sunnier around most of the world and it's a nicer time of year. But I think that we got to do our best to get back to some form of reality. I would urge people not to be stupid, to remember that, particularly my younger boxing fans or whatever, and the kind that are going out to the pubs now as soon as they open, or maybe before they technically open. Like, I'd urge them to at least think about their older relatives and friends and the rest of us. And I think people should still try to be responsible. But look, we're going to find out a lot more, and we're going to try to move ahead. That's the most we can do. If we need at some point to take a step back, I hope not. But if that becomes necessary, then we'll all do it together. We want boxing back. We want to see the fights, but we're also fighting for bigger shit right now. So we got to be responsible at the same time. But I do see the light at the end of the tunnel, and my boat's in the water, and it's not and that's going to be a nice thing to be able to go out and just have another. Personally, selfishly, I mean, I'm I'm looking forward to getting a little bit of a release as people get back to some semblance of more normal over the summer.
Brilliant. Well, we'll try and get back to Wednesday next week if we can, because I don't forget mess
All right,
up
my
one
friend.
this week.
Have a good weekend.
And you take care, Lou. Speak to you soon.